Welcome to Fans of the Forge. We're here at the Grudge Match. I got Cowboy with us from Season 1, Episode 6.
Correct.
So, that was a long time ago.
It's been a few years,
It's been a few years. You guys had to make Canister Damascus.
Yes, we did.
Was that something you were familiar with?
No, actually, I had never made Canister Damascus before that episode.
Awesome.
So it was a new experience for me to do.
Did it seem kind of simple once you saw the guys like, oh, he just throw this shit in there, weld it up, throw it in?
Actually, it was quite intimidating
Yeah.
to sit here watch these guys. These guys, JD's been doing it literally almost as long as I've been alive. He's been teaching it for longer than I've been doing it.
Yeah.
So Peter Martin, who's known for Canister Damascus, these guys are phenomenal.
Right.
And Guy Harris is an excellent guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to walk in there and they're like, oh, this is what you get to do.
Yeah.
Well, I've never seen that done. This shall be very interesting to do.
Right.
So I sat down, and when they said go, I stepped back and just watched
Yeah.
and had no idea how to actually produce this piece. I knew how to do pattern welded steel.
Right.
I've done laminates and everything you can dream up, but I've never made canister. So I figured it's got to be basically the same. Get it hot, get it to the core, make sure it's clean, work smooth and fast and steady. Not work too terribly fast and rush the process.
Right.
Just take your time.
Yep.
Came out perfectly. In fact, Peter Martin, after the episode, came to me afterwards and said, "You've never done this?" He said, "My first 4 pieces came up as a pile on the floor. You made the prettiest piece on the show."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Thanks, dude."
Yeah. And you used the chainsaw chain and some saw blade steel for that.
Chainsaw chain, bandsaw blade, steel cable rope, and powder 1095. Yes.
Yeah, so pretty good mix of components there. Came
All
out.
steels that I've used individually or in layered steel. So I
Right.
figured I can cram them all together. They said I had to use 2 steels plus a powdered metal.
Right.
We had an abundance. I figured I'll just throw an extra one in there
Yeah, why
to
not?
cover all the bases, right?
So during the judging, you commented on having a warp blade edge, but otherwise good design. JD got eliminated for not having 2 steels
Yep.
and being too short. So it's kind of a little surprising.
Everybody on the show, and see, they don't show everything. Everybody on the show had a flawed blade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, JD's, he didn't use enough steel. It's too short. He had some slight warps.
Yep.
Mine had some slight warps to it. Guy Harris's looked like a roller coaster. He was able to pull it out pretty good.
Yeah.
Peter Martin's was too long.
Okay.
So every one of the blades did have flaws. There wasn't a single one that came out without.
Yeah.
You're rushing the process. You cannot make a flawless blade in that amount of time.
Right. Even though, it seems like a long time, it's not, because it goes by just like that.
In a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate in the fact that they actually gave us an extra hour.
Right.
So we did 4 hours on ours.
Yep.
You're watching some of these later episodes, and they're still doing Canister Damascus. They don't always get that extra hour.
No, they don't.
So it's getting harder and more challenging for the guys
Yep.
as they go.
So round 2, you start to fix your flaws, add a handle. You're heating your blade with the torch, and then bending it in a vise, kind of making the judges a little nervous, as is apt that they do whenever someone puts it in a vise and starts bending on it. You familiar with that? Did you have any worries that yourself that there was?
No, I didn't have any worries doing that. I've done that before. Pulling the heat in the spine, soften the spine up. It's going to give a little bit more flexibility. I was pulling that blade almost 45 degrees and not snapping the blade.
Right.
And the whole time I was keeping my fingers on the cutting edge. So I'd heat for a minute, put my fingers on the cutting edge, make sure it wasn't too hot while I
Right.
bent it. When it was getting hot, I'd go over there and cool that cutting edge off.
Yep.
So I was never worried about the cutting edge at that point. Now
Right.
the judges were going, and actually that's what the judges said hit me on the show. That wasn't the flaw that got me off the show, but that's what we went with on the show.
Mm-hmm. So, came up to the testing, the car door stab. Did that seem a little intimidating, or you say, it's just a piece of metal?
I've never put a knife through that much abuse.
Yeah.
You watch him go up there, it's exhilarating. You're watching him sit there and just destroy your blades. Like, I never thought it could have done that.
Right.
And it did. It's like, that's kind of cool. So it's really exciting to watch that part.
And then there was a rib slice for the sharpness test, and you just cut about a quarter of the way through. At that point, were you concerned? And you think, well, maybe that's it, or You know,
I was a little concerned until Doug stepped back. One of my biggest disappointments in the editing of the show is they did not say what Doug said to me. He hit. Peter Martins hit the bone, skipped off the bone, cut almost 3/4 of the way through the meat.
Yep.
It was a beautiful cut. I'm like, wow, check that out. Guy Harris's came in, hit the bone, skipped off the bone, made it almost 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the meat. I'm like, okay, I got to step up. There's a big steel rod. Doug is trying to miss this thing, and he comes in at an angle, and he whacks into the piece, and it barely goes 1/4 of the way in. And I'm like, oh, I'm heart falling. And he steps back, and he looks at me and says, damn, Cowboy, yours cut through the bone, too. I'm like, excellent.
Yeah.
And then they didn't put it in the show. I'm like, oh, come on, guys.
Of course.
That would have been beautiful.
Yep.
So it doesn't look like my blade performs at all. But Doug actually is like, you cut right through it. That's great.
Yeah.
So
is there anything you would have done different? Not that it was really your fault for that test, but overall,
hindsight's 20/20. You can always, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done this. No. You know, I had a good time doing what I did and really would like to... No, I think I would have kept going the same way I did.
Awesome.
Every blade seemed to perform fairly equally, so I didn't have a problem with that.
Okay. So some sort of kind of rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
Favorite knife steel to work with?
Ooh. I like pattern welded steels.
Okay.
So I like mixing metals. I like creating patterns in my blade. To me, that's the more exciting aspect of knife making.
Right.
So, not that I have a perfect steel, 1095, 15, and 20 seems to be one I use a lot.
Okay.
But I like the variety. It depends on what the customer wants and what they plan on doing. I choose my steel according to that.
Okay. Do you have a favorite kind of Damascus pattern that you like to make?
I like bold patterns.
Yeah.
Low layer, bolder patterns. I'm not one for the 300 to 400 layers. I do it. Doesn't do that much for me. I like big, bold patterns I can see from 3 feet away.
Right.
I like accordion cut patterns. So doing alternating cuts and opening it up so it changes and manipulates that pattern.
Yeah.
So I like patterns that have a lot of manipulation to them.
Okay. Stainless steel or no stainless steel?
Stainless steel is a 4-letter word. We don't do stainless steel.
All right. For a knife finish, coffee or mustard?
Coffee.
Coffee. All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
I can't. No, I've seen the mustard. Does nothing for me. Actually, I'm an oddity in the knife community in that regard. I don't like to really darken my blades.
Yeah.
I like to put a polish even on my pattern welded steels. Every knife maker I run into is like, you got almost a mirror finish on Damascus. What were you thinking? I said, I like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't rust. It looks good. I like it.
Yep.
But if I have to do a blackened finish, I'll do the coffee usually.
Okay. Cool. Well, I think that's it. So thanks for watching. We're here with Cowboy at the Grudge Match. Kind of wrapping up on Saturday. Check us out. You see some more interviews. And thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.